Piecewise functions. This is the note that goes with the guided notes, piecewise functions, video going through most of these. The first slide you see is labeled number 1 through 7, and we actually took these 3 different graphs. You had a quadratic, you had exponential, and a absolute value. These things over here are your restrictions, and we have less than, greater than, that would be an open circle. We have a less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to, that's a closed circle when we're doing these restrictions. So this is the first restriction is x less than -1. The second one is -1 less than or equal to x less than 2, x greater than or equal to 2. So we have y equals x squared. We have the table, and we filled in this side. We had the x's, so we filled in the y's. Then we did the 2 to the x minus 1, filled in the y's, and then we did absolute value of x minus 5 and filled in the y's. After we did that, we took the graph and graphed the whole quadratic. We used a table and graphed it and made a quadratic on the first graph. On the second graph, we graphed the exponential, and then on the third graph, we did the absolute value. We went back to do the pieces, the restrictions. So we drew a vertical line through -1, because that's where it said to cut that piece. We drew vertical lines through -1 and 2 to cut that piece out. And then we used 2 to cut that piece out. What happens with piecewise functions is you take a piece of different functions, 2 or more, and then combine them into one new function. So we're taking these pieces based on those restrictions. So the first one, we wanted everything less than -1, so we used -1, 1, -2, 4, -3, 9, and -4, 16. At -1, 1, you had just a less than, so it was an open circle. So when we move that piece to our blank graph, we have an open circle at -1, 1, and then we have our points for the rest of the graph, and we draw that graph. So you just have that piece of the graph. Then for the exponential, you're from -1, which was closed. So -1, 0, 1, 2. Those were the 4 points we needed from -1 to 2. Closed at -1, but open at 2. So then you draw in that piece of the graph with those points, and we ended up with that part of the exponential. Then the absolute value part was greater than or equal to 2. So it's going to be a closed circle, and it was everything because we had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So go graph that part on the bottom, and we had 2, 3, so now that becomes a closed circle, and we have the absolute value graph. And make sure you put your ends on your graph because it is a function and it's continuing on both ends. So we have still a function because at this point, these x's don't repeat themselves. We have a closed circle and an open circle. So that's the beginning of what we did. We spent a lot of time today building this piecewise function. Then we went to these notes. What does this mean? Well, we're going to take pieces of functions that we're already familiar with, that we know, and create a new function. And we take the pieces from these restrictions of our x's. So these restrictions are the instructions of what pieces to use. So then we're going to take, always write it in Desmos now. When you're going to write these, so in this one, I'm going to copy this so I can have this to show you how to write it in there. Oh, that didn't work properly. Oh, okay, hold on. Let me try that again. Okay, it's going to be loud. Click. Okay, now. So now let me move this to here. And how we write it. Hold on, let me delete. Delete. Okay, now I need this here. Okay, now how are we going to put this in Desmos? So you're going to have to use these curly brackets, and they are on your normal keyboard, on your computer, next to the P, the letter P. You're going to have to do the shift and the bracket. So it's a curly bracket. You're going to put your restriction first. So it's going to be, whoops, don't put a parentheses. You've got the bracket. Sorry. All right, let's try that again. Curly bracket, x less than or equal to 1. That's my first restriction, my first function. And then you have to do the colon, 2 dots. And then you put your function, 2x minus 1, curly bracket. So then when I was putting in the second one, I would do x greater than 1, 2 dots, and then 3x plus 1, curly bracket. So that's how you're going to put these piecewise functions in Desmos. So we're going to start with the evaluate. What you're going to do with these is we're looking at where is x equal to 0, where is x equal to 2, and where is x equal to 4. What is your y when it is that? So what we're going to do, evaluate means plug in for your x. Okay, so in this, you're going to plug it in for your x. So when x equals 0, so you got to look at your restrictions to know when x is 0. So is x less than 2 when it's 0, or is it greater than or equal to 2 when it's 0? So it's going to be less, because 0 is less than 2, so you're going to use this function, x plus 2. You're going to plug in the 0 and get 2. Okay. Then x equals 2. Well, that occurs here because that's the equal to. So you're going to use 2x plus 1 because 2 is equal to 2. So we're going to plug in 2 and get 5. Then for 4, x is going to be greater than 2. So 4 is greater than 2. Greater than or equal to 2. So we're going to use 2x plus 1 again. And we're going to plug in the 4. So we get 9. Now, that's the way you do it, just plugging in the math. Okay? Now, we can put it into Desmos like this on the next slide. So I put in f of x, and I put it in x less than 2, colon, x plus 2, and I put in a g of x. And then I just put in f of 2, and it says undefined because it doesn't work in f. 2 does not work in f. F of 0 works and gave me 2. G of 4, if you put the 2 in the G, it does work and give you 5. When you put the 4 in G, it works and give you 9. So this is how you can do these on Desmos using your piecewise functions. And it graphed it, and so you've got the graph, and then you've got it plugging in. Okay, so that is my next one. So now we're going to go and actually just put these in Desmos. So you're going to key in this into Desmos. So you're going to put your x less than 1, the colon, 1/2 x plus 3/2, and then do the other one, x greater than or equal 1, colon, minus x plus 3. So we got 2 lines. So it graphs the red line, and then it graphs the blue line. Okay. So now you've got your graph of these two pieces. And this would have been an open circle on the end, but then it becomes closed when the other one starts there. So that's your piecewise function for that one. So you need to sketch that on your graph. So on that graph, sketch that one here, okay? If you need to know points to sketch them on, then you can do the table. So you can click and get a table in Desmos for that. All right, on the next one, it looks like this. You put in that one, and then you put in your second one, and then it graphs the lines, and here you have an open circle because it's no equal to, and the blue one has a closed. So you have a closed and an open circle. So make sure when you sketch these that you get that. All right, now I'm not going to do any more of these. You can continue to put them in Desmos, and I have this in Canvas in the notes, so you can go back and make sure you've done the rest of them correctly. So please do the rest of these. And we just finished these in class. We did not have any homework. So this is just the video of the notes from today for piecewise functions. Hope you have a great weekend. Bye.